Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, gals and gentlebods, and welcome back to the shed. Yeah, we're in the shed. So it's part 2 of the gearbox overhaul. First job is to replace the prop shaft bush in the rear of the tail housing. So for that we need to pop down to the big workshop. Bosh, just like that, we're in the workshop. Right, so I'm going to knock that bush out. I've just turned up a quick tool on the lathe, it's just a piece of thick walled tube. Turn that down to 33.2. outer diameter and a step, so that step section will go inside the bush, and then that should just knock out with a hefty mallet. I'll reposition the camera and you'll see what happens. Right, so I've got the housing on a piece of board so that I don't damage the face, because obviously that face has got to mate to the gearbox itself. That's going very nicely. I just need a bit of an extension to that. It's just an old 1/2 inch drive extension that's battered and broken. There we go. And with a bit of luck, they will pass straight through. And that's the old bush out without damaging the housing. Because if you try to cut down the edge and then chisel it out, you're going to damage that housing. If you knock that out true, it's going to be difficult to get the new bush to ream in properly. So it's much better to drift them out with a tool like that. Right, let's see if we can get the new bush in. Right, so there's the new bush. It is split and it's got an oil groove. Now on the old one, the oil groove was at the side and the split to the bottom. So that's how we'll put the new one back in. So I'll just start it gently with the hide end of the mallet. Pop the tool in. One more. That's it. We just want the end of the bush flush to the end of the housing. So that's in nice and tight, and all I've got to do now is get that reamed to suit the prop shaft. And we're back in the shed. Right, so I've pushed the new bush in, pressed the new bush in. That just needs to be reamed out to suit. I've got two possibilities. As I said when I was down in the workshop, I can take it to a guy who will do it, or I may just see about buying an adjustable reamer and doing it myself, because I do like to do stuff myself where I can. It kind of goes against the grain for me to pay somebody else to do stuff that I can do, but we'll see how that works out. Right, so it's back to the gearbox. So I've got a bench full of bits. I'll reset the camera and you can have a look and see where we're at. Right, so as you can see, I've stripped part of the main shaft. So it's simply a question of undoing the nut. So to do that, I gripped the shaft with a funky spanner, wrapped a bit of rag around it first so that I didn't damage the shaft, was able to grip that with that, and then I could get an adjustable spanner on the nut and undo that. Once I'd undone the nut, the speedo drive, the spacer tube, the bearing, and the first gear hub and the synchro hub, that's the third, fourth synchro hub, but all of those bits can come off anyway, so that's it. So that's them all down. Now the next part I need to do is to take this hub off the main shaft. Now that is held in place. If you can see it, there's a little dimple there. There's a spring-loaded detent. So what I have to do is push that in, a bit fiddly, push that in, and then I can, well, no, didn't quite get it, press that in, and then I can rotate the collet. That's not quite got it. They are a fiddle because that's quite a strong spring behind that. I think that's got it just about. There we go. So you press the spring in, press the detent in, and rotate that until the slots in it line up with these splines, and now that should slide off. Right, it's got them in line. Let's just try giving it a little tappy tap tap, and that started it moving. So now I can slide that off. Now I've got to watch, because when that comes off, that detent pin and spring are going to fly out. Oh no, they haven't. Right, so that's that collar off. Ah, that's why. It's because that bush behind it had come up as well. So now I can withdraw that pin and its spring, and now we can take the bush and the thrust washer off, and then that gear should come off like so. So that's the main shaft stripped. That's all in nice condition. So now we can see about rebuilding it with the new parts. Well, this is all a bit disappointing. The new parts are too big. That's not going to work. That's what it should fit like. Nice clearance fit. A bit too much clearance. That bush should be a nice fit in there. It's not. It's a crap fit. So the gearbox components I've got, the straight cut gearbox components I've got, appear to be bleeding wrong. Right, scratch that. That was yesterday. As you may have noticed, I descended into a bit of a despondency bubble, but after a bit of research on the internet, it turns out there's several variations of the rib case gearbox, and one of the varying factors is the main shaft and the gear hubs. Obviously the one I've got is not suitable for the straight cut gear set that I've got, but I had a brainwave, or was it a brain fart, one or the other. Anyway, I realised after several hours and a couple of beers that I have a solution, possibly, because I've got another rib case gearbox. It's in the car, but it's another rib case gearbox. So what I need to do is pull the engine and gearbox out of multi, split them, get the gearbox stripped down and see if that will take these straight cut gear set parts. So in the meantime I need to put this one back together. I might as well reassemble it with the new bearings. They weren't terribly expensive, and then I can sell this gearbox on. I can either sell this gearbox on as a reconditioned unit, or I can keep it as a spare, get me out the soft and sloppy should the good gearbox crap its pants. So that's about where we are. So I need to put this one back together. I can't do that right now. It's going to be a couple of weeks at least before I can do another video, because this weekend coming up we're now into the hill climb season, and if I'm not driving I put the orange overalls on and I join the Orange Army and do a bit of marshalling. So I shall be marshalling up Loughton Park this weekend, which means that it will be the following weekend before I can pull the engine out, split it and get that gearbox stripped. So I need to get this gearbox put back together first. But anyway, that's where we are. That's the possible solution and way forward. So I'll see you in the next video. Keep watching the trials and tribulations of rebuilding a 56-year-old car for competition. Oh, what fun we're having. Bye for now.